Much, Ciarán, and thanks for accepting the motion. Minister, welcome to the House. My motion relates specifically for the Minister for Agriculture, Food and Marine, and while I know it's not your line area, I appreciate you coming to give a response. It's in connection with the Beef Genomics scheme, which, in consultation with sucklar farmers throughout most of the northwest of the country, this scheme is turning out to be totally unworkable, and indeed its implementation threatens the quality of the weanling beef output in the northwest of Ireland. This scheme and I can only give counties that are close to myself as examples, in Donegal, Sligo and Leitrim, some 12,800 farmers were eligible to apply, but yet less than 5,500 have actually applied. This is a scheme that's costing €52 million. It's designed to try and assist the farmers, but in effect the science behind it is going to adversely impact on, as I said, the type of weanling that's being produced by farmers throughout the northwest of the country. Times are very difficult for farmers in the northwest of Ireland. We have smaller holdings, longer winters, land that's of a lesser quality to other parts of the country, but yet have been renowned for breeding the highest quality stock for export, for processing, for many, many years. As you may be aware, but certainly Minister Coveney will be aware, what's happening over the last number of weeks is the grading of the cows is being informed to each of the farmers. And what they're finding is that cows that are producing the highest possible quality weanling are being graded just 2 stars. Now, if this scheme works in the way that ICBF and the IFA at senior level, and indeed the department, seem to want it to work, we are going to end up with a much more maternal-focused herd rather than terminal. And I think that it's a healthy mix that we want, and certainly this is a scheme that in the first instance does not help the small farmers of the northwest of the country and indeed other parts of the country, does not serve to increase the quality of type of output from that part of the country, which is already renowned as producing the finest store cattle in Ireland, the finest replacement cattle in Ireland, and I think that something needs to be done in this regard. 8 million of this 52 million is going to go not to farmers but to this genomics testing, which one wonders what the ultimate contribution is going to be, Minister. And I think that this money is derived from, again, as you may know, but certainly Minister Coveney will know, from Pillar 2 in terms of the funding of under the national, under the CAP. Now, there may have been a big uptake on this, where there are very large dairy and suckler farmers in the south of the country, but it has not worked and is not working in the northwest. And what would be much better would be for the 12,800 eligible farmers in the northwest of the country would be, it's costing about €1,000 or thereabouts, that this €1,000 would be made available through the areas of natural constraint, or what we would traditionally know as the disadvantaged area payment or disadvantaged area scheme, which was reduced very substantially. It was originally introduced in the late 1970s, early 80s, to keep people on the land, to make sure that production continued. As I said, that production has been of the highest quality in the northwest of the country in terms of weanling production. Some 40% of Ireland's entire output comes from there in terms of young calves. And I think this is something that's threatened. The scheme is unworkable. It's costing money that is not serving the purpose that we need it to serve. And I would appeal to you to impress upon Minister Coveney for a full review of this, at least in the northwest of the country, where frankly it is not working. Can I also say, Minister, that while I appreciate it's not your line, and I appreciate you being here on behalf of Minister Coveney today, it would be remiss of me not to mention when you're there that the announced scheme today for villages and towns of Ireland is a very sad indictment of any government, and particularly your own, in terms of what it says for your considerations for rural Ireland. It's less than 190,000 per county per year over 6 years. If any government, and all governments for the last 30 years, are guilty of not adequately resourcing our regions and rural areas to perform to their potential, And I really think that if any government is committed to doing that, they need to think in terms of billions over a course of a 6-year period to target strategically resources for the regions to empower them to perform to our potential, and I hope you might take that on board. But first and foremost is the point to do with the necessary review of the Beef Genomics scheme, which I appeal to you, Minister. There is 52 million there that I don't believe is going to serve an adequate purpose and should be diverted, as I've suggested, to the areas of natural constraint, or what would have been known as the disadvantaged area payment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ciarán. I want to thank Senator MacSharry, and I'm pleased to be here on behalf of my colleague, the Minister for Agriculture, who regrets that he can't be here himself. To respond to the issues, on behalf of the Minister, the Beef Data and Genomics Programme, or BDGP, was launched by Minister Coveney on the 5th of May last. It is part of Ireland's Rural Development Programme, as the Senator says, from 2014 to 2020. It involves funding of some €300 million over the next 6 years, and it builds on the state's investment in data recording and genomics in recent years. It aims to, firstly, address widely acknowledged weaknesses in the maternal genetics of the Irish suckler herd, secondly, to reduce the greenhouse gas intensity of Ireland's beef production, and thirdly, to make a positive contribution to the future viability of suckler farmers and the national suckler herd. Beef accounts for 35% of the gross output of the agriculture sector. It is probably the most important product at farm level in Ireland. Beef exports in 2014 amounted to 524,000 tonnes, worth €2.27 billion. The suckler herd is a critical component of this industry. It is beef from the suckler herd that has principally enabled us to succeed in our international retail markets. It is important, therefore, that policy at EU and national level recognises the challenges and the opportunities facing suckler beef farmers and provides the infrastructure to help it to respond and thrive. The BDGP is a response to these challenges and opportunities, and particularly challenges associated with improved breeding performance, including for maternal traits such as cow fertility, and the various onerous requirements to reduce the percentage of Ireland's greenhouse gas emissions which comes from the agriculture sector. Improving the genetics of the suckler herd can make a positive contribution in both of these areas, whilst also improving the economic viability of suckler farming. The BDGP provides targeted support to suckler farmers and builds on the success of the state's investment of over €9 million in the Beef Data Programme in each of 2013 and 2014, and on the success of the pilot Beef Genomics scheme, which involved investment of around €23 million last year. Participants in the BDGP will receive a payment of €142.50 for the first 6.66 hectares and €120 for each hectare thereafter, up to a maximal payable hectarage. This is a strong commitment from this government to the beef sector in Ireland over the next 6 years. In return for this payment, participants will be required to undertake 6 actions, some of which will be well known to suckler farmers through their participation in previous schemes. Participants will be required to complete surveys and submit information related to the criteria such as the milking ability, the size and animal vigour. Farmers will be very familiar with these surveys, which were previously part of the Beef Data Programme operated in recent years. Participants will be required to genotype animals on their farms which have been selected by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation. The number of animals to be genotyped each year will be equal to 60% of the number of calf suckler cows that the applicant had on his or her holding in 2014. These are known as the farmer's reference animals. I should add that the cost of genotyping tag has been significantly reduced from the 2014 Beef Genomics scheme and now stands at €22, a drop of over 26%. The replacement strategy that farmers must undertake as part of the scheme requires them to ensure that a certain percentage of the animals on their herd at particular deadlines are of 4 or 5-star rating on the Eurostar rating system. It should be noted that most farmers are already well on the way to meeting the requirement for replacement animals on their herds, with significant numbers of 4- and 5-star animals already in the scheme participants' herds. In recent weeks, the ICBF has issued every scheme applicant with detailed reports of the current status of animals in their herds. Participants will receive similar information related to the scheme and their individual herd on an ongoing basis. This is in addition to a training programme which will be rolled out over the next 12 months. Finally, farmers will be required to complete a carbon navigator on their farm with an approved advisor. The carbon navigator will not cost anything for participants to complete, and farmers will be paid €166